Hi all, my name is Ryan and welcome to my channel What the Pop, where we discuss pop culture in general and Buffy a lot. The usual spoiler alert. I may talk about things in these analyses that relate to future plot points, so if you haven't seen all of Buffy at least once and you don't like spoilers, I suggest you like the channel, then come back once you've seen it all. Today we continue our look at Season 2 with my review and analysis of Episode 16, Bewitched, Bothered and Bewildered. A plot summary. Xander shows Buffy the necklace he bought for Cordelia for Valentine's Day. She teases him for dating her. Cordelia is being shunned by the Cordettes for seeing Xander. They clearly need to rebrand. Xander sees Amy pull a Jedi mind trick on their teacher. The Scoobies run into Miss Calendar right outside her classroom door. Awkwardness ensues. Giles continues to support his Slayer. Giles tells Buffy that Angelus does particularly nasty things on Valentine's Day, but doesn't go into details. But he's clearly a sucker for the holidays. Spike gives Drew a necklace. Angelus gives her a heart from a quaint little shop girl. It's every vampire girl's most desired item. Buffy receives a bunch of roses with a message that reads soon. Joyce doesn't react at all. At the Bronze, Cordelia is again shunned by her friends. Xander gives her the necklace. She breaks up with him. Next day, everyone's heard about Xander being dumped on Valentine's Day. Xander blackmails Amy into casting a love spell for him. She reminds him his intentions must be pure. He says they are. Pure vengeance. Amy says she needs something of Cordy's. Xander asks Cordy for the necklace back. Cordy says it was tacky, but she was wearing it. She secretly loved it. Amy does a spell invoking the wrong deity. Friggin' amateur hour. Next day, all the girls want Xander. The Cordettes shun Cordy again for hurting Xander. She can't win. Buffy hits on him. He's confused and excited. Amy hits on him, and the penny drops. Xander runs home to find Willow in his bed. She hits on him as well. Xander runs to tell Giles. Miss Calendar hits on him. Giles tells Xander he's a bloody idiot. Buffy comes back for round 2, interrupted by Amy, who turns her into the BuffyRat. Oz turns up, punches Xander in the face, then helps look for the BuffyRat. Xander saves Cordy, only to be confronted by a horde of women and an axe-wielding Willow. Clearly Willow has always had that murderous streak she displays in Season 6. Xander runs to Buffy's, has to deal with Joycey, all ready to get her cougar on. Angelus pulls Xander out of Buffy's window, is stopped by Drew, who also loves him. As the women converge on Xander and Cordy, Giles and Amy reverse the spells. Buffy is no longer a BuffyRat, and everyone else can't believe they had the hots for Xander. The next day, Cordy chooses Xander over the Cordettes. This episode was another written by Marty Noxon, and one that tends to get ripped on by newer fans to the franchise because of the whole roofie, mind-altering substance, lack of consent issues. But honestly, love potions have been a staple of fiction for centuries. Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream features one prominently as part of the plot, and they never work out well for the person doing them. In fiction, we are warned constantly that love spells never work as intended, and they nearly always have negative consequences. For instance, in The Craft, Robin Tunney's character Sarah, to get back at the jock who spread rumours about her, casts a love spell on him. It seems to go okay until she spurns his advances and he tries to rape her. Love nearly always becomes obsession under magic. This episode also gets flack for Buffy thanking Xander for effectively not raping her when she threw herself at him. But I actually think this episode is meant as the flip side to the pack, which I'll talk about later. Xander does suffer some consequences as a result of this spell, but they are mostly off camera, like Willow not talking to him afterwards. But he does end up with the girl, and that's my only real issue with it, that Cordy found it romantic. She should have been angry, slapped him, and he should have had to beg and plead before she took him back. Overall though, I love this episode. It's not one of those episodes that I'd ever seek out for a solo watch, but it's one I always enjoy when I'm doing a watch through. It has some great moments in it, and I love episodes where you see bizarro versions of characters. It's fun when characters are allowed to do things they wouldn't normally do. Here they're altered by a spell, same in Band Candy and Tabula Rasa. In The Wish, it's an alternate timeline. Even the Buffy bot is a bizarro version of a character, and they all allow for some character hijinks that are nearly always hilarious. On the spell itself and why it didn't work as intended, I don't think it had anything to do with the wording of the request or what Xander considers his beloved, or that Cordelia's necklace protected her. I think it didn't work because Amy is an inexperienced witch who petitioned the wrong god. Everyone knows that Venus or Aphrodite is the goddess of love, not Diana. Diana is the goddess of the hunt, and with her conflation with the Greek goddess Artemis is also the goddess of virgins. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the spell was just Diana messing with them for petitioning something of her outside her domain. Instead, she granted something inside her domain. All the women except the one he wanted, hunting Xander's virginity. Of course, in the Buffyverse, actions have consequence, so things just don't reset and people don't forget. All the girls remember that they were in love with Xander, but bizarre things happening in Sunnydale are so commonplace that the flimsiest excuse, in this case a scavenger hunt, is one that people grab onto and accept. I always think it's interesting in that the residents of Sunnydale know that their town isn't normal, but rather than just admitting that there is something supernatural happening, they cling to any excuse that anchors their existence in a reality that makes sense to them. My favourite character in this episode is Jenny Calendar. Robbie Lamort plays her growing attraction to Xander so organically that you can see it building in her within the scene in literally like 30 seconds. She starts off talking to Giles but says nice shirt to Xander, suddenly noticing him. She keeps talking to Giles but hasn't stopped subconsciously touching Xander. Then you see that desire emerge as she asks him if he's been working out. And later in the scene, the little moan she makes when Giles pulls her away from Xander is hilarious. Alison Hannigan gets to portray a whole range of emotions, playing the seductress who likes a little bit of force in a scene that reminds me of this one from Darla in season 1.
What do you want?
I want it finished.
That's good. You're hurting me. That's good too.
And then playing the obsessed and scorned, heartbroken woman who would rather see him dead than with someone else. There's just something about Alison Hannigan wielding an axe that's almost as big as her that speaks to me deeply. And there are so many other good moments in this episode. You get Buffy in her trench coat, Giles annoyed at Xander, the Amy and Xander interactions, Oz just being Oz, the moment when you realise Cordelia loved the necklace and was wearing it, Drew being all over Xander, and Angelus thinking it's just more Drew craziness, not knowing about the spell. And one of my favourite lines, after Joyce has gone full cougar.
Oh my God! Xander, honey, let Joyce in. Hon, let Joyce in.
Upstairs, Buffy's room.
Sweetheart.
We saw in Innocence and again in Phases how Angelus represents the dark heart, love that is twisted into obsession, and is contrasted here with Xander, Buffy's metaphorical heart. Giles tells us in no uncertain terms what's happening.
You have no idea what I'm going through.
I know it's not love. It's obsession. Selfish, banal obsession.
And also why it's a bad thing.
Do you have any idea how serious this is? People under a love spell, Xander, are deadly. They lose all capacity for reason.
But we see how Angelus's role as the Dark Heart plays out in the vampire trio. Spike, our vampire trio's Sophis, or Mind, gives Drew, our Dark Spiritus, a necklace. It's something that he reasons Drew would want, and she does react favourably to it. But then Angelus, our Dark Heart, gives Drew a literal heart, still warm, which he found in a quaint little shop girl. Drew is enamoured with the heart, and when Spike says he should maybe focus more on the Slayer, Drew replies,
Don't worry, Spike. Angel always knows what speaks to a girl's heart.
We also have to remember that Drew is a reflection of Buffy's sexual desire, and Angelus has just given Drew what she really wants, a heart. Buffy, of course, fueled by her desire, wants Angel back. She wants his heart. So we have Drusilla, Angelus and Spike contrasted then to Xander, Buffy's metaphorical heart, and Cordelia, her what-if self. Xander gives Cordelia a necklace with a heart-shaped pendant, a nice parallel and amalgamation of the gifts Spike and Angelus gave to Drew. This tells us that they are meant to be compared and contrasted. Of course, what he is also giving her, what we see in his little speech to Cordelia, is his actual heart. He thinks there is something more to them than just teenage hormones, and he wants to pursue that. So in a romantic gesture, he gives her the necklace, and he gives her his heart. And Cordy, much like Drew, says it's beautiful and accepts the necklace. But contrasted to Drew, Cordelia then rejects Xander's heart, stomping on it, saying she wants to break up. Now this is understandable from what we know of Cordelia. In Season 1 episode Nightmare, we saw that Cordelia's nightmare was to be a geek and unpopular, getting dragged into chess club, etc. We saw in Out of Sight, Out of Mind that although she knows it's all superficial and shallow, and that she felt alone, it was better to be alone, surrounded by other people, than alone by yourself. Having been rejected by her friends because she's dating Xander and that's become known, Cordelia chooses what she thinks she wants, popularity over what she actually wants, love and acceptance. We see, however, when Xander asks for the necklace back, that Cordelia really did want his heart. She was wearing the necklace. She rejected his heart out of protecting her social standing, rather than rejecting it because she didn't want it. Now Buffy's actual heart and metaphorical heart are damaged, and in an act of revenge, her metaphorical heart turns to magic. Getting as sinister as Xander can without being possessed by a hyena spirit, Xander blackmails Amy into casting a love spell. The love spell, of course, goes awry, and now, rather than Cordelia loving him, all the other women of Sunnydale are obsessed with him. This mirrors Angelus's obsession with Buffy, and the women of Sunnydale focus only on Xander, pursuing him essentially in a hunt. We see that the women essentially fall into two categories, those that want to protect him and those that want to kill him if they can't have him. As Giles said, people under love spells do crazy things. Angelus, obsessed with Buffy, and the women obsessed with Xander come together when Angelus realizes he can get to Buffy's heart through Xander, her metaphorical heart. He rips Xander out of her bedroom window, and Xander fights back. He's no match for Angelus, but is saved by Drusilla, also affected by the love spell. This is a perfect parallel because currently the only reason that Buffy isn't dead, that Angelus hasn't snuck in and slaughtered her while she sleeps, is because of his obsession with her. It is that obsession that is keeping Buffy alive. In this case, Angelus can't kill her metaphorical heart because Drew's obsession with Xander prevents Angelus from doing so, and it's keeping Xander alive. Now earlier, Xander had admitted to Giles, Buffy's metaphorical mind, what he had done. Giles chastises Xander for it, then after sending Oz to find Buffy, seeks out Amy to end the spells. And Giles is successful in this, ending both the BuffyRat spell and the love spell. Post-spell, Cordelia has an amazing character growth moment and realises that the popularity isn't what she actually wants, and she chooses Xander over Harmony and the other Cordettes. Amazing given her nightmare. What does this all mean for Buffy? Well, coming off the back of Phases, which was all about the control of desire, we see here the effects of desire out of control, desire that is turned into obsession. In another subtle moment involving Oz, we see that desire and obsession can bring out the animal side of someone even as calm and controlled as Oz, even if just for a moment when he punches Xander. We get Xander, who had Buffy throwing herself at him, and although it was something he really desired, he knew it would be wrong to indulge that desire. This also shows the other side of Xander from the pack. In the pack, under the control of the hyena spirit, Xander tried to force himself on Buffy. Here, the situation is somewhat reversed, and Buffy is throwing herself at him. But we see that ultimately Xander does choose what's right. It puts a nice underline to the "that wasn't me" argument for his actions in the pack. So this message reinforces what was being said in Phases, that Buffy must control her desire. On a side note, Xander didn't deserve her thanks for doing the right thing. It should just be expected that he would do the right thing. This episode goes beyond just control of desire though. In trying to fix his heart, Xander turned to magic. It's a rather telling reflection on Xander's abusive family life that his idea is to make Cordelia feel as bad as he does rather than to make his pain go away. cycles of abuse are destructive. And this episode reminds Buffy that there is no shortcut to her healing, there is only time, something she said at the end of Innocence. We have Willow, Buffy's metaphorical spirit, swept up in the desire and obsession, unable to act rationally. We get Cordelia, Buffy's what-if self, realising who she is, identifying that she isn't a follower, she is a leader, that people follow her. She doesn't need Harmony's or anybody else's approval, she just needs to be true to herself, something Buffy must embrace. Ultimately, we are told how Buffy must deal with her feelings for Angelus. Giles, her metaphorical mind, tells Xander, her metaphorical heart, that he's a fool, and puts an end to the obsession by breaking the spell. For Buffy, it's a case of her embracing who she is and what she has to do. Her heart has hoped that Angel could be restored, that he could be cursed again. It has to be remembered though that Angelus is the vampire's natural state, and Angel is Angelus under a spell. Cursing him again, putting him under another spell, isn't the solution it seems. And Buffy's delay in reaching this resolution now has a body count. Being unable to kill him has so far resulted in at least 2 more deaths. Teresa last episode, and the quaint little shop girl this episode. Her mind needs to overrule her heart, telling it that it's a fool and that she needs to put aside her desire and learn from Cordelia's example and embrace who she is and do her job, which means staking Angelus. This will of course become completely clear to her next episode in Passion, when he kills Miss Calendar. My favourite quote was actually the "Let Joycey in" one earlier, so here's another one from Buffy.
Valentine's Day, yes. Angel nails a puppy to the...
Skip it.
But...
I don't want to know. I don't have a puppy. Skip it.
Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. It helps the channel a lot. You can also support the channel through our Patreon. If you disagreed with anything I said or have anything to add, please put it in the comments below, and I'll see you next video when we look at Passion, which is going to be devastating.